Hello, now are we here? Can you hear me
Yes,
well?
I do.
Perfect. Let's lower the volume right here. That's it. Awesome. Okay, well, let's begin. This is your host, Rose Sanchez, and you're watching Movie Talk with PressPlay Cinema. And today we have an amazing guest. His name is Royce Freeman. I'm going to put it right here for you guys. There you go. Our friend is a director and filmmaker in the area of Jacksonville, Florida. Today, we are talking about his latest documentary called the First Coast World Cinema, right?
First,
Awesome.
first,
So
yeah, First Coast Cinema World. Yeah,
perfect. So now that we're at that, before you start, I want to show everyone your trailer. Is that okay?
of course.
Let's do that. So we're going to watch First Coast Cinema World documentary trailer, and then we're gonna go ahead with our questions for tonight.
Of course.
So get ready, guys. Here it goes.
Miss, you decide, how much you're going to invest in attracting it, recognizing that it will go away.
I don't take it too serious. Even though I've given away half my life to filmmaking, you can't take it serious. Filmmaking will break your heart.
The only sin is being boring.
Determination.
We're that scrappy dog. I think we can overcome anything.
We do this for the love.
It challenges me.
Sometimes you catch lightning in a bottle.
So that gave me a little bit of nostalgia because I saw so many familiar faces. I'm so happy to see them. So before we start with the questions, I want you to give you a free room to say anything you'd like to say and say hello to the world.
I am a filmmaker that lives in Jacksonville and has lived there since 2004. But I'm actually originally from New York and then Miami, so I've been all over the East Coast. But I guess in my heart, I'm a New Yorker, but I've been in Florida for most of my life. So I have New York in my heart, but also Florida is where I live.
Okay, yeah, and I know so because I've been with you in the area. You seem to enjoy the area. Do you like Jacksonville more than the other places, though?
Well, it's funny.
When it comes to art,
Yeah.
the creation of art.
It's funny. I'm in New York right now because I'm on the way to Lisbon, Portugal tomorrow for the Filmpalooza Film Festival for the 40-hour film project. We were in
Ooh, awesome.
Orlando last year, and we won with a musical that we did. That we're going to Lisbon, Portugal, to compete with 150, I believe, about 150 other cities from across the world are competing all together. Because that's how the 48 works: is you compete locally, and if you win, then you go internationally. So I'm in New York right now, where I was born and raised, and so it's kind of fitting that we're doing this interview. That it's what I went back to the cradle. I went back to where it all began, and I'm talking about where things are going.
Okay, well, I'm happy to hear all that. I know there's a bright future for you to come with all these amazing creations. I had the opportunity to see through two of the films that you've made that I've not watched before. So kudos for that. That's awesome. I paid attention. They were really cool. Now, without further ado, let's go to our first question when it comes to our documentary. What inspired you to create the First Coast Cinema World documentary, and what message or theme do you hope to convey through it?
Well, it's funny. I've been going regularly to the Sunray Cinema in Jacksonville since about 2013 through 2014. And right around that time, this guy, Richard Kodai, a local filmmaker from Jacksonville and St. Augustine, started doing a short film showcase of local artists doing short films, and he would screen them at the Sunray Cinema. And it was a red carpet event kind of thing. People would dress up, and what's really cool is Devin S. and JB Arnino, the two of them would do kind of like red carpet event videos outside the theater, and it was really cool. You would exit the theater and suddenly they'd shove the camera in your face. What did you think? What did you think of the filmmakers? Blah 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 blah. And they try to stir things. No, they're great because they try to
It's
stir
funny
things
because
up
I
and
can
try to
see
like.
that from them, just harassing
No,
everybody.
no, it's hilarious. Jay Beer is awesome. He's got a kind of a New Yorker accent kind of thing. So it's like, hey, what'd you think of the movie? Stick the camera in your face. He tries to, stir the pot and get things going. He's really fun. But I got to meet a lot of local filmmakers back then when I started doing some local short films. And over the years, I've met more people. Like one person will introduce me to five more, and those five will introduce me to 10 more. And so, cut to, I've done two feature movies, and I think it started in 2022. I was sitting with my wife Tressa on the couch, and we were watching TV. And I don't know what inspired me to. I would just like lightning comes off in your head. Something just triggers a thought, and I was like, you know, I think what it was is my last two movies got DVD distribution through this company, Bayview Entertainment, and they wanted some documentaries about the making of those films. So I had some on-set interviews with a lot of people from those projects. So I made documentaries out of those projects, and so that now those you can buy DVD and it has those documentaries on there. And while I was doing that, it stopped going because some of the people in the documentary now, were people I interviewed about those projects because I've been working with them. Instead of doing a documentary about one movie, about one filmmaker, I mean, I think there's fans of mine locally, but nobody wants to hear about, one work and just have them take all the attention. What if we made a documentary about a whole bunch of filmmakers and it's almost like everybody's story is one story, even though they're different chapters and different vibes and themes and flavors. We're all one people, even though we're many people. So I said, why don't we do a documentary about the city of Jacksonville? Because I recently had found out that before Hollywood was Hollywood, all the silent films and stuff, a lot of them were being done in Jacksonville. That's why they call it the First Coast, is because we were it. And then, the people that had problem with people working on Sundays, in the South, they told those filmmakers to get to packing, and they grabbed
Well,
everything, including the palm trees. Palm trees were not native to California. We grabbed palm trees and went to California and took palm trees with us, and that's why there's palm trees out there. But but
well, that's
we were Hollywood.
Well, that's on the beauty of creativity and collaboration, because without our friends, none of this could have been possible. So kudos to all our friends over there that believed in our vision. With that being said, let's go to the second question. My second question is, can you share some of the challenges you faced in showcasing the diverse talents of local artists within the Jacksonville community?
Oh boy, that's That's a juicy question with a very detailed answer, but I will try to keep it clean. Um, so, as a community, we're like a family. Everybody's got that uncle in the family that they're like, oh God,
For sure.
Uncle Bob's coming over. He's gonna pinch my cheeks and tell me stories that are just remember that time back in that I did that, you know. So the thing that was the challenge was everybody's different. Everybody more or less tries to play nice, but because everybody's got different leanings and views on all kinds of things. We filmmaking is kind of like when you're on set, it's supposed to be like a holy. It's supposed to be neutral ground. It's supposed to be it's a holy place where everybody gets together and creates, and we put all our differences aside for the sake of film and art. And that's
Exactly.
more or less that's true.
Exactly.
More or less that's true.
It's you that.
More or less is true because when you get somebody who's very much a pacifist, who's also on a set with somebody who was a veteran, on their life, or at least offered to lay down their life for a cause. You have both of those people, a pacifist and a non-pacifist. You put them on a set, that's going to be juicy if they get to talking. But again, film is the great equalizer. Everybody just puts it aside for their craft. That's one of the challenges was getting lots of different people's voices to all kind of gel. I mean, I interviewed 150 people for the documentary, and
Wow.
everybody's interview was roughly
Hey, congratulations for that. Good job.
30-minute interview sometimes, and then your your documentary is only going to be about an hour and a half long. Then you have to pick all the different stuff and then pare it down to a manageable length. Um, so one of the challenges was the editing, because you have to say, well, what story am I telling? And I broke it up into chapters, so that's how I organized my story. But then I'm like, well, not everybody can be there an equal amount of time in the documentary, so you have to decide who's the skeleton that the story is building the frame, and then sometimes some people come in only a very few amount of times, but you want to make sure those people who are in their less still have juicy things to say. Some people didn't even want to be interviewed, and these are very prominent filmmakers that
Wow. Did they tell you why?
yeah, well, they kind of did, because it's like an example. If you tell somebody that you don't want to go out with them because they're too short or too tall or something, it's not something they can fix. So you're letting them off easy. Maybe that's not really the reason why you don't want to go out with them. But what I guess they tried to maybe let me down easy is that I said, "Would you like to be in the documentary?" And some of these people said no early on, so they already hadn't seen all the other people that said yes. And some people actually changed their mind when they started to see that all these prominent people were saying yes. They're like, "Oh, I want in." Some people just didn't change their mind.
That's so funny because in my mind, I'm kind, but I'm not nice. So it's like if I ask you the first time and you didn't believe in me, why would I give you the opportunity right now? But then God is behind my back, just breathing hard in my ear like a child. Be kind.
Well, no, some
But at
people
the same time,
changed their mind. Some people changed their mind. One or two people didn't change their mind, but what they said was, "I don't like to be on camera." And then privately, I said, "Oh, come on, you're on camera a lot." Okay, and then they said, "Well, okay, I like to be on camera for things that I'm doing, but I really don't like to be interviewed." And then I guess they don't like to be interviewed.
okay, I
But that's
guess
fine.
they have
That's
their
fine.
reasons.
Yeah.
Well, we got to take in consideration also that when we're playing characters, it's not who we are.
Yeah.
And some people are very private of their own individuality. So I guess we can say there are private people who like to act.
That's true.
So with
And
that, let's go to our. Oh, go ahead.
the people that said no, they were still gracious enough that they said I can use clips from their stuff and I can still have them represented in the documentary. They just don't want to be in it themselves. So
Oh,
I still get to talk about one guy who's an amazing filmmaker, a brilliant filmmaker. His name is Franklin Rich, and he made a movie called The Artifice Girl. And it is an amazing film about artificial intelligence and what it does, what it means to be human, and can AI become sentient and actually feel and have a soul, and all that kind of really juicy stuff that science fiction gets to tell those stories beautifully. And he's an amazing filmmaker. He did not want to be interviewed, and I understand that. Um, but we get to mention that film and him in the documentary and give him a shout out and let people know who aren't already aware of him, just what they're missing out on, and they should definitely check out his work.
well, that's very noble of you. With that being said, let's go to our third question. Our third question is, as a filmmaker, how do you balance capturing the authenticity of these artists' stories while also maintaining a cohesive narrative for the documentary?
So I'm going to give a shout out to my wife, Tressa, who you've met many times, because you know how they say that sometimes people that are artists or public figures or whoever, sometimes their spouses or their significant others or whoever.
You know what, Royce? I'm so sorry. I gave you the wrong question. So stay over there. It's right here. In what ways do you believe documentaries like yours can contribute to fostering greater appreciation and support for grassroots artistic endeavors? That's my question.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep it right there for you.
I think that documentaries are important because there's lots of topics and things that some people wouldn't think to seek out on their own. And maybe you never knew you wanted to know about something, but suddenly there's this documentary about it, and you can click on the link or the trailer, or there's some kind of promotional material, and then it makes you go, hey, I'm interested in that. I want to know more. So that doing documentaries and bonus content, like when you buy Blu-rays and DVDs, that they put the documentaries on the discs. I think it's important to do documentaries because it tells lots of different types of stories, and it lets people know that the human experience is still alive and well and beautiful, and sometimes there's the darkness, but there's lots of facets to us that make us tick, and what is that expression? If you don't know about the past, you're doomed to repeat it.
You're bound to repeat it. Yeah, I actually agree with you on that. I feel documentaries are very important, not just for the sake of entertainment, but for the sake of history. There's a lot of independent journalists around that take it upon themselves to tell a story the way they perceive it and interpret. So that's a magnificent skill I feel people have. So I commend you for what you're doing. That being said, let's go with the next question. Our next question is, have you encountered any surprising or unexpected stories from the artists you've interviewed that have reshaped your understanding of Jacksonville's creative scene?
The answer to that question is actually the answer I was going to give to the question that we kind of moved aside. I can still answer that one.
Perfect. Let's start where we left off then.
So my wife is an impartial person. She always gives me the truth. She always gives me feedback without filter, and she says, "This is good. This is not as good." And when I set out to do the documentary, I was very much aware of the short film showcase with Richard Kodai. I was very much aware of the 48-hour film project, which I participated for many years, and also the LOL Jacks, which Adam and Monique Madrid work on and produce. And they also produced the 48. But I was aware of those things. And then I was aware of the filmmakers that I met at those experiences. And I knew I wanted to mention Villa as a hub, and that's where film started, and now we have independent film. But I became aware of a filmmaker named Chad Hendricks, and I told my wife about him, and she had met him a few times. And she's after I had done most of my interviews, I actually had started editing this documentary, which the first cut was very different from what it is now. It was all I wouldn't say it was all over the place, but it was telling a really big story. But I was missing one little through line, one little important piece that I didn't know was missing. I interviewed Chad the first time, and I just got a very basic interview out of him, just answering all the normal questions I was asking everybody. And when I told my wife a year after we started and had all these interviews and at a first cut, she says, "So tell me what I guess what they call the elevator pitch. Give me a little nugget of what your documentary is." I started to tell her.
Yeah, you have 30 seconds. Think fast.
Yeah. So I started to tell her what the story was, and she started to hear these connective beats, but they were very far apart. She goes, "What I'm hearing you're telling me is this guy Richard Norman was doing positive uh, filmmaking about African American filmmakers 100 years ago, and what you're also telling me is later on in your documentary, you're telling me that 100 years later, this guy Chad Hendricks is doing the urban films, and Chad Hendricks is a Caucasian guy, just like Richard Norman was, and he was doing these African American and Hispanic and Asian telling diverse stories with rappers and zombies and all these things that are not what Richard Norman was doing. But my wife said, "So you're telling me there's a guy who was doing it 100 years ago, and the guy who's doing it now?" And you said Folio Weekly did a story on him, so they were linking those two things. And she said, "I think that's your hook. That if you don't have it, you need to get it." And Chad just finished his movie Bloody Freaking Mary last year, and he goes, "Hey, I have some free time. Did you need something else from the documentary?" I said, "Yeah, I need a whole new interview from you." And he goes, "What's wrong?" No, I told him about the folio thing that he had told me about, and I said, "My wife told me a different story to tell about you." And so I got his interview, and by getting his interview, it linked all these things in the documentary that originally didn't have this pulse, this beat that was carrying through the. There's all these amazing, diverse filmmakers in Jacksonville that don't look like me, and it's a beautiful thing that they don't. Because if there was a thousand people looking like me, that'd be very bland, and we need diversity in the world. And so I'm sure I don't know if you already know that all the filmmakers like there's Dr. Sean Powell at the Ritz Theater, and she works with Adolfo Latore, and they do films. And Los 2K has been doing the Soul Hood films for years in Jacksonville. And then you have so many other filmmakers. This guy, Ithiel Israel. There's just so many. And Chad is the reason I'm aware of a lot of these people because he introduced me to so many of them. And they all have great things to say about him. They said if it wasn't for him being a trailblazer and starting it in like 1990, 2000, 2001, they wouldn't have necessarily thought that they could also follow their dreams. So that's the story of the documentary is planting a seed and a beautiful crop and flowers just bloom and everybody can feed into each other. And that's what the documentary is about.
Listen, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. I know that there's a lot of my friends over there, and I can't wait to see how they look at the scenery of Jacksonville's Florida film industry through their eyes. That's going to be something really, really amazing. So let's get back to our questions. This is our next question. What strategies have you employed to ensure that the documentary accurately represents the cultural richness and creative vibrancy of the First Coast region?
We are a diverse people. I've said diversity so much it sounds like It's just like it's amazing. Everybody. Well, no, I say diversity, and because it's the first thing that comes to mind. I might overuse it by saying it so much, but it's so true. Um, and um, I think that I've learned so much about this community, and I want the audience to know things they didn't already know, and I learned so much making it. And the challenge is everybody's got different voices and vibes and feels, and just like to use an example, if you take a novel like Narnia or Harry Potter or just anything that's a mammoth book. If you're going to turn it into a movie, something 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 90 minutes, you have to pare it down and you have to find things that are repetitive and just chuck them so that you can streamline it. If
Mm-hmm.
if I if
Yeah.
I ask everybody the same questions, they're all going to have similar answers or different answers. But if I put it all together, it's like, okay, this person's in the documentary a lot, and they're saying something this other person who's in it not as many times is saying. Maybe I'll get rid of the one guy saying it and I'll use somebody new. I try to keep it fresh, not have it be on the same people too all the time. There's some people that in it a lot because they are the framework. They have done it so much, so they are like the OGs in the community. Um, but one of the great things is taking a year and change to make the documentary. I've actually interviewed people in the last 6 months that I never was thinking of getting in the piece because I didn't really know them as well, or they were out of the country doing other things, and now they came back. So it taking so long actually allowed me to add more people that I wasn't originally going to get.
Well, another strategy that I feel you have in your documentary is the fact that you're showing how these people succeed in what in their visions through collaboration. The magic of collaboration is something that we can't really underestimate. So I am really happy that you can show that through your documentary as well, because honestly, there is probably just a few faces I didn't recognize, but everyone I worked on in any capacity, maybe in the background, in front of the camera, maybe with advertising, maybe with just assisting to their events. Like it's a rich community, and the fact that we are that willing to create together, I just can't wait to see what else these creatives are capable of.
I
And
know
I
that.
can't wait to see what you got next after this documentary. So let's go to our next question. Our next
Yeah.
question is: have there been any moments during the filmmaking process that have profoundly affected you personally or provided valuable insight into the human experience? Because we were talking about the human experience. So,
Well,
what about that?
I can say a couple of things. I showed a cut of the documentary to a prominent filmmaker in Jacksonville, out of Madrid, and he saw it and was able to give some constructive feedback. Not necessarily anything that he felt was anything wrong with the documentary, but when you interview 150 people and you've been editing it for the period of time, sometimes as an example, I don't think it's saying anything to point out that I am colorblind. Like, to actually, all I see is the human heart. I don't think about a person and where they're from when I'm talking to them in any kind of negative sense. So sometimes I just forget. I take for granted or forget that a friend of mine, like our friend Clem, right? Our friend Clem, he's an African American fellow. He's been my friend for 12 years. When I describe him as bald and tall and handsome. And then someone's like, has to remind me and point out to me that he's also a black man. And I was like, oh, that's right, he is. I mean, I guess I know, but I don't think about it that way. If I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I guess he is. But it's not his defining feature. I don't think about him in that way. So when Adam watched the documentary, he noticed that there was something I did editorially that wasn't bad, but he goes, "What these people are saying, this block of people is saying, is beautiful. It's amazing. The only thing about this block is the people that are saying it, they all look the same, and there's not really the diversity
Mhm.
in this block of a section. There isn't a, it takes a little bit of time from this moment that this
There's no variation of ideas running around.
well no what's
It's just
no
everything.
well what's being said is it has a variation and all that stuff, but from the moment this moment
Okay.
of the section starts to here is everybody looks exactly the same while they're even though what they're saying is different. He goes, maybe spice up this section and just if there's anybody that you can put in there also that is saying some of the same stuff, maybe mix it up. And I hadn't thought about it because that particular section I had edited it 8 months ago before I got some of the other people. So he says, just think about it. Okay, yeah. So I went home and I was looking at some of the other stuff that I had kind of cut out and put aside, maybe to use later for something. And I was like, there's some good stuff in here. I can actually okay, this person's in it a bunch of times. I can substitute for them, and so he got me to rethink a piece of editorial that I never thought about it because I was listening to what was being said. I was like closing my eyes and just listening like radio. I was listening to the stories, and I took for granted that I also have eyes, and it's not just radio. And the perception of the audience, for better or worse, is they might draw conclusions that if there isn't diversity for a period of time, or if there isn't something that, you know, any kind of, the diversity, um, that they might draw conclusions were not intentional by me. So he helped me become aware of perception, and actually, I think it improved the piece. So him that out actually got me to challenge myself and also grow.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. I believe that every artistic experience somehow leaves its print in us. Every little one of us. I remember good friend of ours, Basil Jada. At some point, I was in one of his films, and I had to learn some uh, choreography. And I basically we had an instructor. She was there, she was cool, she was awesome, but she had to leave later on, and it was upon ourselves to use what we learned to put it into create something by ourselves as actors, me and my co-star. That was awesome. That was an amazing experience, and it was something that stayed with me after that. Every time I see a flamenco video, like dancing video, I have to stop to watch it because it's like, oh, that is an amazing art. I learned about that culture in a very short period of time. And I believe 2 months before the shooting, I was in Madrid, and I got myself one of those little the fans. And that was amazing. So that experience made it much better now that I understood the culture. So let's go ahead with our next question. Our next question is, what advice would you give to aspiring filmmakers who aim to shine a spotlight on local talents? I'm sorry, and on local talent and communities through their work? Hey, Royce, can you hear me?
Because we're trying to reconnect. Are you there?
Can you hear me well? Can you hear me well? Can you hear me? I think our friend, let me do it one more time. Let's see. Can you hear me this time? Okay, I guess can you hear me now? Mr. Freeman? Okay, so there is some technical issues here. Let's see what happened. And while we do that, I'm going to let you listen to some music. So let's do that. Can you hear me now, Mr. Royce? Nope. Okay. Let's get to this.
Siento tu aroma en el viento, se apodera de mi ser. Bella una flor en tus manos, adornándote la piel. Eres del tiempo un recuerdo, de mi amor la eternidad. Prófuga del mismo cielo, que me vino a acompañar. Yo te quiero como nunca soñé. Como nunca soñé. Voy a encontrar el amor dentro de tu corazón. Voy a gritar libertad cuando te pueda besar. Y una sonrisa en tus labios me dirán que esto es verdad. Te lo juro, yo lo voy a encontrar. Y tú lo dices a bien. Esto que siento en el pecho ya no deja de crecer. Siento que vuelo sin alas, derechito a tu querer. Eres de mi alma un anhelo, de mi vida la razón, para quedarme rendido ante tu amor. Yo te quiero como nunca soñé. Como nunca soñé. Voy a encontrar el amor dentro de tu corazón. Voy a gritar libertad cuando te pueda besar. Y una sonrisa en tus labios me dirán que esto es verdad. Es verdad. Te lo juro, yo lo voy a encontrar. Esto lo dice Xavier. Te sigo buscando. Pasaré una vida entera para convencerte con arrullos hasta que me quieras. Hasta que me quieras. Voy a encontrar el amor dentro de tu corazón. Voy a gritar libertad cuando te pueda besar. Y una sonrisa en tus labios me dirán que esto es verdad. Es verdad, baby. Te lo juro, yo lo voy a encontrar. Yeah, yeah. No. Yeah, it's the music. Whoa, whoa, yeah.
Okay, we're back again. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can. Just give me 1 second to adjust my
No
microphone.
problem. Let's put a little bit of music. Cool. Okay, awesome. So, yeah, I think I told you I totally lost track of what I was saying. Oh, I was talking about that Madrid flight and that participation in that film. But yeah, I was trying to relate to that what you were saying. So, with that being said, let's go back to our questions. And this one is reflecting on your journey with this documentary. What life lessons have you learned about collaboration, perseverance, and the power of storytelling to affect change?
Well, let me ask you, since the feed got cut off before, did the answer that was given go through, or do I need to maybe come up with a shorter version of that answer?
What was that again?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you well. It sounds a little glitchy.
Hold on a second.
Can you hear me well still?
I can hear you. You said I sound different than I did before, like it's not as clear.
You sound a little better now. You just sound a little low.
A little low, okay.
Yeah.
Is it any better?
That's perfect. Let's go.
All right, what I was asking you is that, I guess we got cut off before. Can I give you a very shorter version of the answer I said before? Because I don't know if it got...
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Okay, yeah, you were asking me about something about, I don't remember the question, but I remember the answer I was going to give. Is I showed a cut of the movie to a influential filmmaker, Adam Madrid, and he saw a section that had a lot of interesting things that were being said, but he pointed out to me that because I had edited this over a period of a long period of time, some of that particular section was done 8 months ago, a year ago. And he said, maybe replace some of the comments in that section with fresher voices that you got later when you were doing the interviews, and try to keep the diversity a little bit more fresh in that one section. Because, and I tried to explain to him that, what I was using was the comments and I wasn't looking at who was saying them. And he goes, no, it's a beautiful thing that you don't see how everybody looks. You're just seeing the soul and the heart they have. But he says the audience might get a perception of the storytelling if there isn't some consistent diversity throughout. And I 100% agree. I went back and I looked at that one section. It wasn't that long, but it was a little section. And I'm like, he's right. And I found some comments that actually worked just as well. And I, for lack of a better, beautiful word, I spiced it up. You know, I made it pop. You know, and actually I think it's better. So the thing I wanted to give is what they call it, giving them their flowers. I want to give Adam Madrid and Monique Madrid their flowers because they're always challenging me to grow as a filmmaker. You also challenged me in that way. I worked on that movie Limelight Shadows, and it was a Me Too film, but it was being told by me. And usually that's like, usually it's Me Too is told from the perspective of women.
Yeah, and I also remember that you went out of your way to ask if it was appropriate and how would be a great way to go about it without offending women.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Oh yeah, and my co-writer Lexi Love, or Alexandria Williams, is her real name. She was my writer that helped me write it. She let me write the dialogue, but she said, no, you're the storyteller, you're the director, you write what you want. But she helped me come up with, she helped me come up with the human story and the beats. My assistant director, Casey Ellison, she's a female. I made sure there was as many females on the set in my cast and my crew that actually there wasn't that many guys on set, which was fine by me. And it also it kept me honest, and it made sure that for perception's sake, it's a guy telling that kind of story. But there's a female writer, your AD's a woman, all that kind of thing. So, but I give you all your flowers because I have worked with so many awesome people that are male and female, and everybody challenges me in their own way to make me a better person, a better filmmaker.
No, and that's the way it should be, right? That's how we brainstorm, by having people challenging our views. I feel that being an artist, it's also like being an active critical thinker in film. So with that being said, let's go to our next question. I think let me show it right back at you, and let me read it again. Reflecting on your journey with this documentary, what life lessons have you learned about collaboration, perseverance, and the power of storytelling to affect change?
Well, I'm 43, so I'm kind of caught in the middle of several generations. My parents' generation were not necessarily my parents, because they were, not activist types, but my parents' generation, you had people that were marching for different things, and whether they were fighting against the war, or there were like flower children, or Black Panthers, or just whatever. People were fighting for change and equality and all those beautiful things that we all strive for, or should strive for. And in the '90s, when I was a teenager, there was that whole grunge fad or scene, and there was also the riots in Watts, and a lot of the music of the '90s was speaking to the injustices in the urban community, speaking against the brutalities and things, which we still deal with today. But the reason I bring that up is I'm not an activist. I like to watch movies, so that I can eat the popcorn, and then when the shark jumps out of the water, the popcorn flies, or when the monster attacks, So I like to go for the wild roller coaster ride that film is this wonderful transportive medium that it takes us to another place. It uplifts us, it scares the shit out of us. Oh, sorry, did I say that?
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
Just try to keep it on the low.
No, it won't.
It's live. There's no beat here.
Yeah. No, but I like the shared experience that you get. I mean, streaming is great, but you actually get this experience when you go to a dark theater and everybody sits together and they eat the popcorn and they share an experience. I don't make movies to be an activist. There's lots of different themes that I tell in my stories. An actor, actress, a thespian, as much as you like yourself, you study lots of different methods, and they tell you that nobody actually is playing a villain. Even the people that are the antagonists in the story, who might be a really bad person, they don't think you're the villain. So you have to, as an actor, right, you have to find the humanity in the humane. So I have to do the same thing in the stories. No matter how bad a character is, I have to give them some quirks and some little idiosyncratic little things so that it makes them human. Even if they do horrible things, they still have to be sometimes bubbly and quirky and weird and all those kinds of things to make you want to watch them until the good guy maybe blows them away, but or they get whatever kind of just desserts. But I'm not an activist. I notice on social media so much, there's all these hashtags that come up for, wanting change now and to make awareness for things, which it's a great thing to do. But I also want people, when they sit down and watch anything that I make, at first and foremost, I want them to be entertained, and then also learn something maybe, or if I'm going to put a message in there, it's going to be buried in the film, because I don't want it to be a soapbox. There's other filmmakers that do great work that it's not very subtle. When you're going into that movie, it's going to be about that. And it's okay. There's an audience for some of that stuff, and some of those movies I like. But for the most part, I like to have my messages buried in minutia and flavor and things, so that you're getting a ride, you're getting an experience, right? So it's been the biggest challenge as a storyteller is to not be an activist and to always entertain or try to entertain first.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm in a position to agree or disagree. This is your interview. I agree, but at the same time, I disagree because I feel like people should be aware of what's going on in the world, and who better than us artists that can put it in picture for them to understand it and grasp it.
Yeah.
So a little bit of everything in every artist.
Well,
They
it's a
can be an
balance.
activist,
Yeah,
they
it's a
can be
balance.
a storyteller. Exactly. Yeah, they can be whatever they want to put their mind to, honestly, at this point. That's what makes an artist, that imagination and that creativity. So I want to go ahead and give you a free art speech. We have free speech here, but we do free art speech. So let's start with somebody. I think someone tried to ask you. They said right there on the screen, Royce, you still in New York or you're in Lisbon now? That was Bohemian Garden.
Oh, I wonder who that actually is, because there's lots of people that are following our journey from Jacksonville, Florida to Lisbon. We are in New York right now. We're in Queens. We're staying over for the last night of our journey here. Tomorrow we fly out to a late night flight, and we will be arriving Tuesday in Portugal, and we're going to be there until the 26th.
Okay. Okay, well, you guys enjoy yourself. I want to ask you, what is something else that you would want to tell the audience about your film, about what's coming next? The floor is yours. It's your free art speech moment, so go ahead and seize it.
I have lots of different stories that that I want to tell. And every time I think that I'm going to be telling one story, something comes up, like a contest, or a friend says, "Hey, I want to work on this. You want to do it with me?" Okay, cool. And sometimes that makes the thing I was going to try to write or do, pushes it off on the back burner, and then I revisit it later. A lot of the projects I've done over the years, I didn't do them when I initially set out to do them. The time and the universe and fate just kind of had different plans. Just like going down to Orlando for that 48 that wasn't even Jacksonville, it wasn't our city, but David.
I know how it is. Sometimes the odds are not in our favor.
But I went down to a different city that I had never done it with before, and on the first try we won, and that was amazing. I have a romantic comedy that I've been working on for a very long time. It's a coming of age story about teenagers in high school. It's based on my experiences. It's going to be a feature film. I'm not in a position to say when.
Do we have a name for it already?
Well, it's called Hearts.
Hearts. Okay.
It's called Hearts. And it's based on stuff from my high school years, but all the other things as well. And it has a poetry element to it, and it's sweet, but it also deals with what it's like to be a teenager in a very realistic sense. So it's not just an after-school special where everything is just leave it to Beaver and things are just great. No, it's what it's like to be a teenager, and I've been working on that story for a while. I have a thriller that I'm working on called Curtains. I'm not sure if we'll keep that title, but that's the title for now. That's also been something that I've been working on for a bit. But every time I think I'm going to be fine-tuning those things, new projects come up, like this documentary, which has taken a year and a half of my life. But the greatest thing is, I'm going to Portugal. I'm going to this thing next week, or this week coming up. And I don't know what's going to happen.
Well,
I'm
just
meeting
make
people
sure
from
when you're over there, you meet enough people to get to know enough stories so that you can come back and make a new one.
I'm going to be meeting people that all have different dialects, accents, nationalities, cultures, and they're all coming together in this place to celebrate cinema. And you know, we're people are bound to just network and exchange cards and keep in touch, see what's
Hmm.
happening. Some people may just try to shoot a short film while they're in Lisbon. Um, I may or may not be doing that myself. There, you know, there's something might happen in Lisbon that people in Jacksonville get to see.
Yeah, well, we have another question for you. Somebody asked, oh, Matthew Stephen asked, what are your favorite categories of film?
Is it like genre, like the genres?
Yeah.
Everybody who knows me in Jacksonville would swear by the fact they think that horror is my favorite genre. It's a close second. It really is. I love a good scary film, but I'm a big sap, and not enough people see it. But movies like The Goonies, or The Breakfast Club, or Ferris Bueller's Day Off, or A Christmas Story with Ralphie and the BB gun, or just Indiana Jones, Star Wars. Just
Well, that takes us to another question. Do you like weird westerns?
weird westerns. I like all kinds of westerns. What is a weird western?
I don't know. That was our commenter. I hope he would
Okay, okay.
elaborate a little bit, but if you can
Yeah.
maybe tell us a little bit more about what kind of weird westerns came to your mind as soon as I asked the question.
Yes. Okay. I am a big fan of what they call deconstructive or subversive, like subverting the genre. It's like we're going to make a movie in the genre, but we're going to try to change the genre. So, Escape from New York with Kurt Russell. It's a western. Big Trouble Little China with Kurt Russell. It's a western, but it's set in modern times, and you replace the horse with the truck, or instead of him being a gunslinger in the old west, he's this. They're perfect example. This is very contemporary now. Beyonce has a new song out, Texas Hold'em. It's an R&B country song. I mean, that's a mashup. That's the two things.
I haven't sat down to listen to it yet, but I've heard it around. No, I think this in Texas or something like that.
No, it's got a Beyonce beat on it, but it's got it's got a country twine in it, but it's Beyonce. So yeah, I'm doing it not justice, selling it that way.
We have Matthew here again. He came with the context for that weird westerns.
Okay.
He is saying weird westerns are pulp fantasy westerns with vampires, cowboys, elves, and castles, dungeons in Texas.
Okay. From Dusk Till Dawn with Selma Hayek and Danny Trejo.
I think I've seen that movie. That movie's cool.
It's a western because the first half of the movie, it's a Tarantino type movie where they kidnap the characters and they're not nice people and they have to rendezvous in Tijuana or wherever they're going at this bar. And unfortunately, the trailer they spoil some of the vampire thing in the trailer. But once they get to the bar and things go down, somebody supposedly is injured and then you think they're going to die, but then they grow fangs and suddenly they're a monster. And you're like, oh God, but it's a mashup. It's two movies in one. It's half the movie is this, and then, which is great. If you watch like Kill Bill, Kill Bill's a western, but it's a samurai film. It's a samurai film. It's a kung fu movie. It's a blaxploitation movie with the stuff that has Vivica Fox. It's a blaxploitation movie. It's all that wrapped in one. It's so great.
Yeah, there he is. He's saying, yes, Dust Till Down is a great example. Thank you, Matthew, for your questions. Thank you for engaging with us. So with that being said, we have conclude our interview. Do you want to say anything to the audience before we say goodbye?
Well, I will say that it's a shame that Rose has moved away from Jacksonville because I got to work with her, and there's been projects that if she was still in Jacksonville, I could work with her more. Maybe she should come visit Jacksonville.
Listen, don't tempt me with a good time. For real, listen, I miss you guys. I miss you very much. I'm getting to know new creatives over here. Everything's cool. People here are very collaborative. I haven't seen a lot of bickering yet, but it's coming. Obviously, I love being at home. I love my motherhood, and I'm not out too much. But every time I'm out, there's always an Uncle Tom around.
I'm a father, and I have a 3-year-old, and it's a beautiful thing. We were talking. I think I mentioned briefly, but the idea of you go to a film set, and it's a sacred place because it is a form of. It's a holy place when you go to a film set because you're creating, and you're finding fellowship with other people, and you can create. Well, now I'm a parent, and I've actually created another human being. And much like the fact that my father is a filmmaker, and that's why I am a filmmaker, is because I'm following after my father's footsteps. And I get to actually work with my dad because he works on films a lot. He's retired, but he works on my stuff. And sometimes other folks that I work with, he'll work with them too. But maybe
Isn't that an honor, though? Isn't that an honor?
And he doesn't sugarcoat things, my dad. He gives it to me straight, and just like all of you in the community, he also pushes me. I push back sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, no, this is what I want it to be. Okay. And then he'll do it how I want, or he'll do it how I want, and then he'll show me, okay, this is what you asked for. And then I realize, oh, darn, you were right. So, it's nice to have a parent who actually works on your stuff because then they can challenge you. And once in a while, you surprise them too, because you don't think that the student is going to teach the teacher, but every once in a while, the teacher actually says, "Oh, I didn't think about it that way. That's just pretty good." So that means a lot. And
Right.
maybe my son, when he grows up, maybe he'll want to be in the family business. Maybe he won't, but I'll love him just the same. And
Well, baby, well, don't jinx it. Don't jinx it, because I have my daughter, and I'm not sure if you get to see Shine On, and I start there as the ghost with my daughter. So
with
the
Joe, yeah,
ghost ends up doing.
Joe Mora, the movie Shine On, yeah.
Yes, correct. And I brought her because I really wanted to see how dynamic she was when it comes to art, because she loves art. But I was going to be like, is she gonna follow into my footsteps, or is she gonna go in another direction? And I brought her to that set, and she had so much fun. It was awesome. At the very end of the day, I was like, well, what do you think about it? She's like, I'm okay. I'm not acting. That was funny for sure. And then I was like, well, okay, well, whatever you want, I'm here to support you. And she started designing, so now she makes graphic design. So she found her calling. There's art. So it was definitely art because she was inclining into that area, but she was trying to experiment which one to take. Let me answer this question. Matthew, the mixer at Hazel Park in Detroit. Yes, I'll be there on April. So again, Matthew, thank you for engaging with us. That is all for tonight. Thank you, Royce Freeman, for coming with us and talk to us about your documentary. Can't wait to see it. So just keep me in touch because I really want to watch it. And if it's possible, maybe showcase it at PressPlayHere.com. So let us know.
Well, we're going to try to have a Jacksonville premiere in the spring or summer. Maybe if you came down to Jacksonville to visit, maybe you can report on it live from the event.
Listen, that sounds like a good idea. Let's talk about it.
Red carpet.
Let's talk
baby.
furthermore.
Red carpet. Let's do it.
Oh, right. Well, I'm in the movie too. I'm in the documentary too. I should be there.
Yeah,
Red carpet.
exactly.
Broadcasting live. Well, thank you very much, Royce. Have a beautiful night. My blessings to you and your family. And please, safe travels, okay?
And we will be reporting from Lisbon with, the constant updates of how things are going. And, you never know what can happen.
That's true. So that's what we always there to inspire. Guys, have a beautiful night and press play.